All right, so good. All right, let's see who do we have. So I have my camera and I can see Daniela and Jesus. And who else would like to put their camera on and speak in the first round?
Sonia also has the camera on. I don't know if you can see her.
Okay, now I can see her. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so the three of us are panelists. So I don't know if Jane or Stefan wants to turn on their cameras. Like, feel free. I'm happy to turn mine off. So just to check if anyone else wants to step in first. Okay, then we talk. I think we can continue the thread of where we left it, Jesus, on capitalism. I think if we're talking about patterns, that's a pattern, how things are and how we are formed to function and operate in a certain way and what is expected of us, and also like maybe perfectionism. Like I think that's a pattern that we try to have everything perfect and find the perfect words and have the perfect visual and like do it in the perfect. And I feel regeneration asks also, and regenerative marketing too, how to do it more authentic or real or genuine and aligned to the present context and moment and place instead of perfect. But maybe you have different. Sonia, what do you think? Or Jesus, what do you think?
Yeah, and also the fear of scarcity, because in regeneration we're always talking about abundance, how we need to focus on abundance. But at the end of the day, we're transitioning from a very defined mindset, when you're talking about capitalism. So how do you sustain this, this trust in life and that life will provide, and at the same time like try and not get too worried about this economical pressure, which is what makes the marketing then transform, right?
Yeah, and also something that like a layer of complexity that I wanted to bring in the patterns is decolonizing marketing. I feel
Yeah.
colonization is also present in everyone, in every country, not only the like well-known colonized places, just Europe was colonized once, by the Romans and everything. So I feel there's a big part of the work to be done in like shifting those patterns into how to decolonize ourselves, our minds, our behaviors, and marketing too. And what you were saying, like not being from extraction and scarcity to trust and abundance, and a different rhythm, a different scale, and also what Jesus was bringing, like to replicate instead of escalating everything. How can we make something that is able to be replicated in it with the proper context and adaptation and all that? But yeah, there's this pattern of that I feel it could be created from the Industrial Revolution, even like more is better, and that I feel it's been super harmful for not only tourism but everything. So yeah, Jesus, what do you feel or think about that?
Yeah, no, one thought that I have is related to the regeneration is to make it simple because the people, how to say it, they interpret that the concept of regeneration is a little bit complex. It's very abstract, no? So that I think that one nice thing that we could do is try to make it very simple, and also in terms of marketing, how we can do it very, very easy to communicate, focused on the impacts, and trying to be, how to say, to avoid the complexity that it's real because all is
But I
complex,
think that's
and
that's
we can,
a paradox, because when you talk of regeneration, you are talking about complexity and
yeah, that's true.
accepting it and like navigating that uncertainty. So it's, yes, we want this concept to be well known and create awareness about it, but at the same time, it will be against kind of itself if you try to get complexity out of it. And I feel that's one of the things of it. Like regeneration comes with complexity and our part on that, our role in that is how we can relate to it, I think, in a different way. So for me, it's more about how we can shift our mindsets and the paradigms that rule our life. So regeneration doesn't feel like this foreign, weird, abstract thing, because it's not. It's a inherent capacity of life itself. It's as old as digesting or breathing. It's not something new. It's not what is next after sustainability. It's going beyond that. It's really how to remember that it's necessary to go out of this anthropocentric type of view of what we think we need to do and what we think its impact or success, and allow to create the conditions and develop those conditions for life to thrive, all sorts of life, human just being one of those. But I feel that's the challenge of marketing, of tourism, or business, or like anything that wants to be in the paradigm of regeneration. It responds to the question that Sonia was bringing. Is this really supporting life? Is this really allowing for evolution and for thriving ecosystems and life itself? So I understand the challenge, and I feel it's about maybe meeting people where they are and start to finding common language. But I will not say it's like to eliminate complexity, because it's like going against in a way.
All right. So we have Stefan who has camera on. So someone should step down for a second.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Stefan.
Great. Thanks first for allowing me to speak. I apologize for any sound in the background. I'm outside, but I'm glad that I was able to join, and I wanted to salute Sonia, who I know for years from all regenerative stories and places where we met to work on this. So if I can, I'll just add 2 points to this. So first is when you speak, like what are the messages you need to send. The thing is that I think quite often to communicate regeneration, complex language is used, and we can use really simple words. I mean, even saying synergy between humans and nature, humans as part of nature, is something that needs to be further explained. So storytelling is one way, but storytelling that really goes to the ground in a simple and easy word. It's not just about semantics, but what those words say. So even when you say that something is sustainable, you don't say anything. What does it mean to have a sustainable food? But if you explain that food is produced organically or biologically, or that animals are in the open, you change the way the message is sent. And the second one goes also a little bit in line with what you said so far, is decentralizing human from the stories, or that tourism, regenerative tourism, not per se is it's not a product, but it is in a function, as Sonia said, in life. So decentralizing the benefit of not only human being, but also that it supports much more. How it comes by explaining that nature is not a resource. And unfortunately, even in talks about sustainability or sustainable development, nature is still considered a source for human well-being. So we still need to go beyond that thing. So it's going several steps behind to explain someone that nature is not a resource, but that is the product of what someone mentioned. I apologize, I can't remember whom, about capitalism. So it is educational system that exists for decades. It's not a recent trend. So we are going much back to try to change that thing. I recently completed my PhD on regenerative tourism, and during the discussion, president of a discussion was challenging the whole point of regeneration with this idea of nature being a resource, because they are environmental economists. And when I started to respond, my first question was, are you ready to change your mindset? Are you willing to do that? So even on those level, people are not. So let alone a traveler or someone who depends on a tourism-based economy, in a local place. So decentralizing human is something that we need to talk about how you do it. More than human storytelling, for example, is an amazing tool. I tried it. I saw it in practice. It is really nice, and I think that is also the way that supports all ideas all of you said so far. I apologize if I taken too much time, but I will try to stop here.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now we have about like 2.5, 3 minutes. So if Jane or Vicky, if you want to speak now, might be the time. Otherwise, we can continue as it flows for a few more minutes.
Well, if not, I can, I can,
Yes.
if that's all right. If anyone wants to speak, please let me know, and I'm happy to switch on my camera. So thanks, Stefan, for all of this, this idea of decentralizing, the human. I think is this idea of, how we can go from the ego to the eco to the seva, which is the idea, not stay in the eco, but then move to the seva, which is this idea of offering something, without wanting something in return as well. And I think another of the problems that we have right now, and it's, I suppose, another pattern of this world that we're living in, is the hurry. We are in a rush to do things, so we want answers, we want guidelines, we want roadmaps, and regeneration is not about that at all. You need to take your time. But the funny thing is that when you do take your time, then things go so much faster. The results are amazing, so, but you do need to take your time. And if there are words like living systems, like following the principles of living system, what are you talking about? When I started with this, what I did was really, really study about living system. What does that mean? And truly, it's wonderful when you're seeing how you can, understand where we come from, what we are part of, and then how we can apply this to our lives. So it's, it takes a little bit of time, but it really, the change is, the transformation is really not, amazing. We have 25
Wonderful.
minutes, seconds.
Indeed, any last
Can I add just something? But yeah, really
10
quickly,
seconds?
so yeah, it's really easy to understand among each other, but unfortunately, it's not seven of us who is sufficient, to communicate among each other. So it's a much broader public.
Hit record and then open the doc. And then look at the same topic again through these new questions of what insights have come up. I guess we've been talking about this a little bit already, no? But we can still deepen.
Just want to follow up on what Stefan was sharing. That's a new insight for me, like storytelling for the more than human. It already sparked ideas in my mind, and how to communicate in that way. Because I share, like, I agree that the power of storytelling is crucial, but how we can make it more than human, and I'm staying with that. And again, like, for example, with my project that is in northern Patagonia, I think it would be really, really cool to see the stories from the perspective of the huemul, that is the deer that is almost extinct. And with this project, now they have 40 of them in that area, and it was none 20 years ago. So I will be interested in, through the storytelling, talk about the regenerative story there, but not from the human lens, but from the deer lens. I don't know. That's where I'm landing now. I don't know, maybe it's crazy, but yeah, this is what I wanted to bring. What's shifting for me.
That's beautiful.
So we can see Vicky, would you like to share something?
Hi. Well, I'm afraid I only just turned up because I was in meetings, and so I'm not quite sure where you started from. But I really appreciated when I first came in. I went straight into a room, and I didn't really know where they were starting talking from. And Sonia can probably help me out here because there was a a lady who said, hang on a minute, regenerative tourism isn't that simple. There's a guy who said we need to make it simple, and then she had said, but it isn't simple, it is complex. And I really appreciated that, actually, because I have a consumer site, and we're constantly stuck between sort of the marketing principles of meet the consumer where they're at versus where we need to be and where we want to be. And certainly I feel constantly stuck in three places. I have my site, which is presenting what it is at the moment to the consumers, and even that's ahead of the consumer market. I have what I want to be doing on my site in the next year or so, for which the structure is there, etc. And then I have for what I really want to be doing, which is much more regenerative. And so we live in these different positions in time almost, but all my work is ahead of the market game. And the real frustration is the lack of engagement from consumers in concrete terms. So it almost seems like we were saying in the last separate room, there's a conflict between what the consumers need and want, and between what is best for the world ultimately, and trying to engage and educate on that basis. It's a tough call. I've been doing it 9 years, and I own my own site, and I haven't got the answer yet, I don't think. And so, there's a lot of greenwashing out there. There's a lot of it. I'm sure it drives Sonia mad, and others that know about it. It drives me potty, the way that people use the term regenerative when it's not what they actually mean. But it sounds cool, and I'm sure there'll be more and more of it. And it's sort of, how do you fight that off? And the way that the EU is approaching that is going to be certification and very structured, and it's almost completely in contradiction to the very flexible and sort of innovative approach that regenerative is. And I'm much more I'm a startup minded person who iterates and works it out as I go along and feels my way, rather than it all being very, very structured.
That is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having what we talk sometimes at the collab, and it's working within, we're working within the old system and how to navigate that. And sometimes you want to be shouting at the world, this is not it, this is it, but then when you're defining things too much, then obviously it's like, well, do we really need to define things so much? People on the field don't want to define things. So it's a bit of this balance that we need to find. And I guess, it's like we just continue working on it, and then it will, it will come, it will emerge, so.
And I think you're right. I've just been in another call this afternoon on regenerative cross-sector stuff. And, we can't, it's that whole thing of, we can't solve the problems we've got with the same thinking that created them, Einstein. And in terms of, say, marketing, we're trying to answer the marketing solution for regenerative tourism in processes which belong to the old way of marketing. And as much as, I'm very much purpose first, I'm very emotional in how I speak. If you talk to anyone about, how do you best market regenerative tourism, I probably tick all those boxes. Does it work yet? No, because the consumer's not there. So you might be doing all the right things, but if they're not there, it's not going to flow nicely.
That's the invitation, right? It's like, because we even if we don't bring it to the conscious mind, we are expecting a certain process to follow a line. That you
exactly.
Put this product out there and you want these people buying it and by this time.
Yeah, and then you do your targeting work or your content or whatever. It's all sort of almost quite linear thinking still.
Exactly. So it's I think that's the invitation, that how can you design in a way that if by this particular time you don't achieve these sales, like you can still continue in a way, you know, how you build that resilience. But it goes in so many layers. And to talk to what you were bringing before, I also see regeneration being the new buzzword, you know, everywhere that I do the same. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm bringing all these concepts, but then it takes me very fast to another concept that is to be a steward of it. That I it's my favorite concept of regeneration, you know, that is a really clear invitation of, for tourism being a steward of places, for us being stewards of the concept too, in marketing and how we communicate, you know. And then it rewards repetition, it rewards consistency, you know. It doesn't reward like the maximum volume and then next top design for it, but it rewards like keep talking and keep reinforcing the message, and designed also the process that you can review if you are actually falling again in the normal system, because we're still part of it, as you were saying, you know, Sonia. So how can you create a process for yourself as the person behind those projects to keep an eye to, like, because yes, as we were talking before about paradigms, so it's so ingrained, the linear thinking, the older paradigms, that this one is still finding its way inside of us. So I find myself many times like reviewing, and I was like, oh, I didn't do that at all from the regenerative paradigm. You know, I didn't react it or respond or design in a way. But then you can adapt and redirect and renew and continue, you know, and align yourself with that. But I feel it's, and I feel you, because it's the same for me, that I feel I'm doing it in my capacity as regenerative again, but it's not the persons I'm reaching out, they're not ready for that, or don't see the value, or I'm not communicating the value in a way that will resonate for them at this moment. But I feel at the same time it's a calling for me to review, like, can I pause? Can I slow down? Can I see it, that it has another rhythm? So I really go into what you brought.
I'm very happy to take longer. The problem is the market requires viability. And the market still very much works on, you know, whether it's trying to get funding from investors, which is based obviously on profitable returns. So, you know, investors come in, and you probably either, you know, it would either be impact or travel, and they have the same expectations of other sectors, and it's just not going to work in the same way. You know, it's not going to have the same return. So if, for example, in a travel startup, mainstream travel startup, they probably expect 10 times the return in 3 years. And we're lucky if it's going to be 3 times in 10 years, right? In regenerative, probably. So it's what I often say. And impact investors, you know, they're also based on a volume, because ultimately they're based on a volume of impact. And you're not going to get that until you've got those consumers to do that. So it's all still very much, and even like things like tourist boards, the way they advertise, the way they determine sponsorship and things like that, campaigns, it's all based on volumes. And so it's really, really tough, because you're in a market which isn't working in the same way, or you're trying to work in a different way rather, and the market isn't. And just simple things like, even when I tried to get my company insurance, because I'm a different model, because I'm trying to do it in a more regenerative way, it took me weeks and weeks and weeks to find someone who would actually insure me for the model I am, as opposed to trying to make me something I'm not, and paying a higher premium, which I didn't want to do, obviously. But yeah, it's really, I'm definitely feeling a pinch point more now than ever. And maybe that's because there's more interest in it sort of more generally, without the conversions actually being there.
Wonderful. So we have 1.5 minutes left. Any last ideas maybe on what ways of acting can or do work? Maybe. Or one last insights.
Well, the supply side works. I mean, I'm you know, compared to when I started my business, there's so much happening in actual destinations, and the real issue is the demand side for consumers, I would say. So it's the sort of mainstream thinking still.
Any other last words?
I think we just need to keep going as we can, because it is tough. I think it's also valuable recognizing that it is tough, you know. So, and how we can also create relationships that could support us in those times that is like, I cannot anymore, and not do it alone.
Just navigate these times and learn different ways. Things are shifting, but it's just, how to navigate